to episode 2 of At What Point podcast. Hopefully, you've enjoyed the journey so far. Obviously, it's very brief, right? We've only had episode 1 where I discussed Ronaldo moving to Arsenal instead of going to Man United and what that would look like over that 5-year period. And I really enjoyed the feedback I received, and really what it made me think more of was how far or where else I could take the idea, the concept, right? This is sort of kind of a sprouting idea in my mind as well, and trying to find things that I find, interesting that I could apply this sort of logic to, right? And that's what came up with the episode 2 that you're on right now, which, by the way, thank you so much if you are watching or listening to this episode. First things first, I would love to ask that you support the podcast by hitting the subscribe button if you are watching, and if you are listening, of course, wherever you are, if there's a subscribe button, there's a follow button, RSS feed, I guess that's what they call it. Please hit that. Definitely appreciate the help, because this is a growing podcast. I really am getting back into it, and something I haven't done for a while, but I'm really excited and I really would appreciate the support. Okay, but without further ado, after now lowering myself so much, I'm kidding, let's get into episode 2. So it is what it says on the tin: Kobe to Chicago, right? So this is super interesting, because now I will take that same logic from the episode 1 that we did, where I take a 5-year period to examine how their progress would have altered in their career, and would they be able to achieve the things that they were looking to achieve, and ultimately could we call their decision a success? Because if they had decided to move, would it help their career or hinder it? And vice versa. That way we can really get a look into really big decisions in the careers of a lot of the most influential people in sports, right? So I really like this idea, because Kobe Bryant was, he was an incredible icon in the game of basketball, and definitely huge for the LA Lakers, right? He cemented the Lakers for, I guess, the late 90s to the 2000s, the 2010s. He carried the torch from the Showtime Lakers, from your Magic Johnsons and Kareem Abdul's, because that was a era, that was a different style of play, but it wasn't going to be able to last. So Kobe Bryant comes in with Shaquille O'Neal, and they both show a different level of intensity, of right, look at the game. The pick and roll was on the ultimate level it possibly could be. You had Steve Jackson, coaching, and he was incredible, making sure that that they were doing the triangle offense, and implementing a lot of these creative ideas that soon proliferate in throughout the league. So Kobe Bryant has a huge influence on the game that we all enjoy today. But let's take a look at Kobe Bryant's journey, and that let's really examine what led him to even have the idea to want to move to Chicago. So Kobe Bryant in the 2006-2007 NBA season had just come off a second consecutive scoring title, averaging 31.6 points per game. That would put him at a threshold far above all his other competitors in a very competitive time of the NBA. But he was very frustrated and dealing with a lot of angst on and off the court. What with departure of Shaquille O'Neal, who had helped him win 2 titles back to back with the Lakers, but since then having a falling out, and having the rumors circulating from the front office of the Lakers, stating that Kobe Bryant's attitude and his sort of demeanor was probably the big proponent in souring of the relationship between Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant. And a lot of people felt as though that was the reason why Kobe wasn't winning, was because he had created this rift between the two of them. Kobe Bryant had not been able to take the Lakers all the way to the finals that year, having lost to the Suns in the first round. this was a different type of Phoenix Suns, though. This was Mike D'Antoni, Steve Nash, Stoudemire. They were the 7 seconds or less. So this was a different level of intensity. So Kobe Bryant definitely couldn't hold himself too hard against the wall, but definitely were not at the level that he was used to, and this definitely had him feeling frustrated. Kobe Bryant definitely had a moment of, and this all came together when Kobe Bryant was asked on an ESPN radio show his feelings currently of the Lakers front office, and that led him to say, and I quote, "I would like to be traded. Yeah, I just want to do that, to want them to do the right thing."
Now tells Stephen A. Smith he wants out of LA.
There's no other alternative, They obviously want to move in a different direction in terms of, rebuilding. I wish they would have, told me that, prior to me signing with the team. They obviously want to move in a different direction.
End quote, which really translated to Kobe Bryant pushing the Lakers front office to really make a move. Less about wanting him to actually say, all right, I'm going anywhere or there's any what way, but seeing as they had started the subsequent season soon after 7-8 season, not really making any moves, Kobe Bryant made it very much clear later on that he wanted to move to Chicago or any other place that he felt would be a legitimate contender. Now, we all understand or know what actually happened was soon after, during that season, 07-08 season, the Lakers made a trade for Paul Gasol with Memphis Grizzlies, and that led to 2 more championships in 2009 and 2010. So ultimately, Kobe Bryant got his wish. He was able to bring championships back to the LA Lakers, as well as cement himself in glory. But let's take a look at what could have happened if Kobe Bryant had decided to actually move to Chicago, as opposed to staying and waiting for Paul Gasol to arrive, and not really saying it in that context, but really to say if he had really left it up for what the Lakers were going to decide, or rather decide his own future in that moment. So let's take a look back to 2006, 2007. And not really from the Lakers' perspective, but let's take a look at what the Bulls were doing at that moment as well. The 06-07 NBA season for the Chicago Bulls was actually very significant as well. They had for several seasons been struggling to get themselves out of the doldrums of the NBA Eastern Conference, but because of an entrance of a new flashy Chicago lineup, there was promise. People were really looking at the Chicago Bulls as the second coming since the end of the Michael Jordan era, right? So their regular season had actually finished pretty well. They had finished 49-33 in the regular season, netting them a 5th seed, and making it all the way to the playoffs. But they didn't really make it that far, being a young core, but working on their actual game, they were actually going to be creating a lot more vigor and know-how, and probably get a better understanding of what it takes to win, especially in the postseason, right? The off-season acquisition for them of veteran Ben Wallace, someone who'd already had experience with the Detroit Pistons as a champion, was a major move that actually added that sort of depth and that guidance in the locker room that they needed, and the defensive skills, of course, right? Coupled with the fact that they had a myriad of really good young guards and power forwards in Luol, Deng, Kirk Heinrich. These were definitely people who were going to add to it, as well as the incoming Joakim Noah, a center who we all know would be someone definitely available for the next few years for Chicago and create a huge sense of buzz, especially when we had Derrick Rose coming down the pipeline very soon after. So instead, let's take a look at what will happen with the idea of Kobe Bryant moving to Chicago. First things first, let's take a look at the trade package. The proposed trade between the Chicago Bulls and the LA Lakers would have sent Luol Deng, Ben Gordon, Tyrese Thomas, and Joakim Noah all the way to the Lakers, and then the Lakers would we would have to send Kobe Bryant. So that would definitely mean definitely not a lot of wiggle room for the Bulls to build on. And the Lakers would definitely also be struggling because the whole system was built around Kobe Bryant, right? So the impact, when we take a look on what it would look in terms of their starting five, we see that the Bulls would have a potential projection of starting lineup of Kirk Heinrich, Kobe Bryant, Andres Nocioni at the small forward, power forward Joe Smith, and the center Ben Wallace. Really bare bones back of the lineup, sort of lineup there, and Kobe Bryant wouldn't have any of the tools that he would have found interesting to work with, because they would have needed to be traded for his trade capital, right? His value is just so high that it's impossible to actually give you just a 1-for-1 trade for Kobe Bryant. And instead, the Lakers would have a projected lineup of Derek Fisher at point, Ben Gordon at shooting guard, small forward Luol Deng, and Lamar Odom at power forward, and Andrew Bynum at center, right? And Andrew Bynum, who also was young and up and coming and needed a little bit of guidance, definitely benefited from having Kobe Bryant there. So him leaving would have definitely created a difference in maybe his career. Who knows? Maybe he would have stayed longer. Maybe we would have seen a different side of Andrew Bynum. But the regardless change would have meant that the Bulls would have been a gutted starting five, and probably been very difficult for Kobe Bryant to really manage, as well as the Lakers with not having a star that really they could focus on. Let's take a look at the projections now. So the first season, with that move being made, the statistical projections would have had the Bulls with Kobe at a pretty comfortable 55 to 27 win total. Their offensive rating at about 112.3 and defensive rating at 103.1. Right, and if we take a look at the numbers for the Lakers, the projected win totals were 42 to 40, which wasn't really that good. You're looking at just above 500, offensive rating at 108.2, and a defensive rating at 106.8, right? And over the 5-year timeline, that's definitely going to look a little different, right? But we take a look at the breakdown of the Lakers and the Bulls and see what that would mean for Kobe Bryant as a whole, and what that also would mean for the Lakers. So let's take a look at a deeper analysis of some of the players who would have been working around Kobe Bryant. Let's take a look at really what their futures might have even held, right? So Luol Deng, at 22 years old, he would have been coming off of a breakout season, playing at an averaging 18.8 points per game, 7.1 rebounds, and 2.4 assists per game, and shooting at 51% field goal percentage. That's excellent efficiency. He was a really emerging elite two-way wing. And still under that rookie contract, playing for the Lakers. That would have been incredible for them, a really good asset, and probably someone they would have been building around the same way Chicago was building around him then. Ben Gordon, a premier scorer, 21.4 points per game, 41.3 from three-point range, proven clutch performer, ready for a featured role. So that would have definitely helped the Lakers in terms of the next 2 to 3 seasons. Having lost someone as significant as Kobe Bryant, you would need that shooting prowess and someone who could rise to those moments. Tyrese Thomas, raw, explosive athlete at 21 years old, contribution of 5.2 points per game and 4.7 rebounds per game, and 1.2 blocks per game in limited minutes, right? Because of his huge size, he would have been someone available to help the Lakers, especially Andrew Bynum, as he was maybe not going to be able to do all of the tasks needed in that time, because the West was still full of very big men. So that was not something that they could really skimp out with the Lakers, especially now losing Kobe Bryant. And Joakim Noah, the 9th overall pick at that time in 2007, he had already amassed 2 NCAA championships. He was an elite defensive prospect, untested at that time, but really we could have expected good things from him, and the IQ was really up. So you knew that he was someone you could build around, especially if you're looking to, build a big man first, heavy sort of offense, as well as create better perimeter defense, because that was sort of what was needed for the league, as people were always running and penetrating, cutting, slashing, right? That was a very big part of the league at that moment. The value analysis, well, we take a look at both teams, the Lakers and the Bulls, and the combined statistical contribution for the players would have been, at least for the Lakers, would have been 52 points per game, 21.6 rebounds, and 7 assists per game. So, with all that said, let's take a look at what they would actually look like after 5 seasons. And really, where would they see each other? So Bulls with Kobe, the 07-08 season, like we said earlier, we're looking at 55 to 27 wins, and their highest would have been Eastern Conference Finals, because they're probably starting to find that momentum, build a rapport with one another. Kobe's fitting into this new team, and they may have needed to probably purchase a few other pieces through either draft picks, trade, things like that, to just add some more people on the bench, if nothing else, to help Kobe with the task of making it. The 08-09 season, 58 to 24, improved season. Of course, Kobe Bryant would have by then figured out a lot more on how the team works. Excuse me. There would have been a lot more push towards getting the ball to him, as the system would have been moved to that, and you would have seen an NBA Finals appearance. That's what it looks at when we look at all the competitors at that time. 09-10 season, Eastern Conference Finals. The 10-11 season would have been an NBA championship potential, which is very interesting, because now you're looking at the Boston Celtics being the winners of that one, but dethroning the Boston Celtics supremacy at that time period, because that would have had Kobe in their conference and giving them a lot more to deal with on a regular basis, especially because only one of them could make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. And then the 2011-2012 season as well, Eastern Conference Finals. And now in exchange, the Lakers without Kobe would have had a first round exit the year that Kobe left. We're looking at a second round exit in the playoffs, a second round in the 2009-2010 season, a conference semifinals in the 2010-2011 season, and a first round exit again in the 2010-2012 season. So really, there is not much difference for what the Lakers could do with the pieces they were given, just because the efficiency that Kobe provided was just bar none incredible. And when it was late in the game and you needed those points desperately, Kobe was the person. Kobe obviously was able to push the game whenever he needed the game to be pushed, and that was something that the Lakers probably would not be able to live without, and that shows through the numbers. Let's take a look at the ripple effect to the rest of the NBA and what that actually would have caused, right? Because this would have meant a power shift in the conferences. Everything would have shifted right back to the Eastern Conference. You would have seen a lot more people taking a look at the Bulls, Celtics, Cavaliers, and Magic as the the centerpieces, but that would actually definitely supersede what the West was bringing, because there would be less significance really going from that side. Aside from the Spurs and the Suns, Lakers would definitely be out of contention for that time period, and that would stifle the allure as well as the grandiose, the grandeur of the Lakers franchise at that time. The Bulls would have been incredibly hype, definitely. That would have been a different look at the Bulls. Their perceived lore up until this point would be completely different. They were, for a long time post Michael Jordan and for this longest time really still perceived as a very, very low, win team. It seems like there's no spirit left with the organization. Maybe now there's a little bit of a difference, right? What we're talking in 2024. But it took a long time. Even post Derrick Rose, they've had big slumps. And Derrick Rose was supposed to be the biggest change for them. And that was one of the things that really would have been affected if Kobe Bryant had decided to move to the Bulls. They would probably not be able to stand in line for that first round, for that number one pick, which eventually would have been the Derrick Rose. He would have headed somewhere else. Like I said, the Boston Celtics run 2008 to 2012 would have been interrupted. The 2008 championship, perhaps, right? And they would have been able to definitely win 2010 for LeBron against LeBron James. Miami would have been very difficult. It would have been very difficult for Miami to cause any sort of upset to the apple cart sort of scenario like they did against the Celtics. And of course, because Paul Gasol needed to come to the Lakers because he was helping Kobe, Paul Gasol would have never made it to the Lakers, and instead we would have seen a different look. Ron Artest maybe wouldn't have signed with the Lakers as well. Carlos Boozer destination actually would have been different because the Chicago Bulls would have decided perhaps to keep him in order to have him work with Kobe Bryant and instead not let him walk to Utah for that exorbitant amount of money on that offer sheet, which everyone regards as one of the silliest decisions the Chicago Bulls could have made. And there would have been a league-wide strategic shift. The front offices would have been retooling to make way for the next 5 to 6 seasons where Kobe Bryant would just be dominating the East. That might have even seen a earlier move for LeBron to the Western Conference, just because of the fact that having both of them on the same side, it would have been difficult for both auras, let's say, to coexist. So that could have actually spurred a lot of changes in those things as well, and LeBron's legacy as well. Of course, the NBA TV's sort of earnings would have been shifted east more. The narrative would have been definitely different because now you would have had more talent on the one side versus the other, and as well as a imbalance in terms of the TV ratings, with the Lakers probably slumping because they wouldn't be able to keep up with the rest of the Western Conference, because of all the changes. So that would have been a very big difference as well for the NBA, and probably would have had the commissioner, Silva, would not have been too impressed with the move. And in fact, that might have probably even been a factor that they considered when Kobe made these announcements, to which I would say there's a chance that probably he was even influential in making sure there wasn't any move to Chicago, just because this could have made a big issue with the rest of the league as a whole, in terms of where the money's going. So ultimately, we realize there's just more for Kobe if he decides to stay with the Lakers than it is if he decides to go to Chicago, because he would have only been given, a possibility of a championship, not outright championship, and there's only one that he would be looking at. They still would have needed to make sure they fulfilled the big man needed for him to advance to the finals. Of course, that meant making sure Ben Wallace was doing what Ben Wallace needed to do, and that when Carlos Boozer came along, they needed to make sure that there would have been enough cap space to keep him happy as well as Kobe Bryant happy, as well as making sure that those two personalities would have coexisted, because Kobe Bryant had been known for being a little bit abrasive and hard-headed when it came to the way what he expected of his teammates. That was definitely a big issue that he did have with a lot of the people who did come in after the fact with Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal's exit. It was very difficult to make Kobe happy or keep Kobe happy. Let's rather say that. But in reality, Lakers would have been a much better, would have been much worse without Kobe Bryant, and the Bulls would have been sort of better with Kobe Bryant, but not good enough to satisfy what Kobe Bryant would have needed from them or demanded of them because of the high bar Kobe Bryant sets for himself and the high bar Kobe Bryant set for his team, right? So in the end, it would have been a much worse thing if Kobe Bryant decided to move to the Bulls. In fact, it was even stated that Kobe Bryant had conversations with the Bulls front office, with the express idea of making the move happen. But when he found out that Luol Deng would have needed to move to the Lakers in order for him to make it, he decided that he did not want it to happen because he'd prefer Luol Deng. He would have wanted to play with Luol Deng, is I think what his idea was, which he, eventually had the opportunity to. But the thing with Kobe was that he didn't want Luol Deng to be sacrificed just for him to be able to move to a competitive team like the Chicago Bulls. So in the end, what we find from this is, things happen the way they needed to happen because that's really a better off scenario right now. Kobe Bryant is who he is because he made the decisions he's made. And in fact, he probably wouldn't have done anything better for his career had he decided to make a move. So yeah, that's a pretty interesting take a look at the data I have present. It will be on my Substack as well as I'll have a copy for my portfolio. If you guys want any more information, just don't forget to hit me up. Subscribe again, like, comment, let me know what you think about the episode. Any thoughts on the data? I'll have my sources in the bottom. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks so much for watching. I'll be back shortly with episode 3. All right, bye.